The Devourers had consumed 147 worlds across 37 star systems. Each conquest followed the same pattern: arrival, orbital bombardment, systematic extermination of military assets, then methodical harvesting of planetary resources. The advanced races always responded identically, mobilizing their fleets, engaging in honorable space combat, fighting valiantly until their last ships were destroyed. Then came the surrender broadcasts, the pleas for mercy, the desperate final transmissions as their worlds burned. The pattern had held for 3,000 years across 17 different galaxies. Until they reached human space, Hive Mind Designate 7742 analyzed the tactical data as the Devourer fleet entered the Kepler 442 system, humanity's outermost industrial colony. The human response was confusing. No grand battle fleet rose to meet them, no orbital defense platforms powered up for heroic last stands. Instead, the entire system simply went dark and began shooting at them from directions that shouldn't have contained weapons. "Casualty report," demanded the Hive Mind, as 3 scout vessels exploded simultaneously. Unknown weapons fire from asteroid belt mining platforms appear to have been weaponized, also detecting weapon signatures from space debris impossible to establish firing solutions. Targets are moving in chaotic patterns. This was the first anomaly. Every civilization they'd encountered had fought from fixed positions: planets, space stations, proper military installations. These humans seemed to have turned random chunks of space rock into mobile weapons platforms. The Devourers adapted, sending overwhelming force toward the obvious targets, the colony worlds and major installations. Surely the humans would defend their population centers with recognizable military doctrine. They were wrong. The colony worlds were abandoned, but not evacuated. They were booby-trapped. Entire planets had been turned into massive improvised explosive devices. When Devourer forces landed on Kepler 442b, the humans detonated the planet's core, taking out a third of the invasion fleet in a miniature supernova. "Status report," ordered the Hive Mind, struggling to process what had just occurred. "The humans, they destroyed their own world to eliminate our forces. No other species has ever. This violates every principle of conquest resistance. They sacrificed billions of their own to kill thousands of ours." Tactical Node 891 highlighted the impossible mathematics. Their casualty exchange ratio is strategically unsound. They're treating their own lives as acceptable losses to inflict minimal damage on our forces. But the humans weren't done. The Devourers had expected the surviving human forces to retreat deeper into their territory, buying time for a final defense. Instead, humanity went on the offensive, using tactics that defied every principle of civilized warfare. Human ships began appearing behind Devourer lines, not through superior FTL technology, but because they'd been hiding inside asteroids, space debris, even the hulks of their own destroyed vessels for months. They'd been planning this ambush before the Devourers had even entered their space. "How did they predict our invasion vector?" demanded the Hive Mind. "Unknown. Analysis suggests they've been preparing for our arrival for decades. Their defensive positions show evidence of long-term construction. They knew we were coming before we knew we were coming." The humans had done something unprecedented. They'd studied the Devourers' previous conquests and built their entire defense strategy around asymmetric warfare from the beginning. While other species had tried to match Devourers' strength with strength, humanity had decided to make victory so expensive that it became defeat. Their ships weren't built for glorious space battles. They were built for suicide runs, guerrilla strikes, and maximum psychological impact. Human captains rammed Devourer command ships while broadcasting messages like, "Tell your friends we've got plenty more where this came from." The Devourers moved deeper into human space, expecting to find the core worlds where humanity would make its final stand. Instead, they found something that shattered their understanding of warfare itself: Humans didn't have a final stand. They had 1,000 final stands. Every human colony, from major worlds to mining asteroids, fought like it was the last bastion of their species. There was no hierarchy of strategic importance, no gradual escalation of desperation. A farming colony on the rim fought with the same vicious creativity as the industrial heart worlds. The humans had weaponized everything. Cargo haulers became kinetic missiles. Civilian transports carried nuclear mines disguised as refugees. Even their agricultural worlds had been turned into weapons. Genetically modified crops that poisoned devourer ground forces, livestock that had been bred to explode when consumed. "Recommendation," requested the hive mind after 6 months of grinding losses. "Unknown." Standard conquest protocols assume the enemy follows logical strategic priorities. These humans appear to consider every rock in space worth dying for. They're not defending territory, they're making territory too expensive to hold. The breaking point came at the Proxima Centauri system. The Devourers expected to find humanity's capital, the seat of their government, the crown jewel they'd fight desperately to protect. Instead, they found the most elaborate trap in the history of warfare. The entire system was fake. Every planet, every space station, every asteroid base was a holographic projection powered by hidden generators scattered throughout the system. When the Devourer fleet committed to the final assault, the humans activated their masterpiece, a network of artificial black holes that had been disguised as mining equipment. The trap consumed half the Devourer fleet in minutes, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the message that followed, broadcast on all frequencies. "Thanks for stopping by. This has been Proxima Centauri, humanity's 847th most important system. We've got about 6,000 more just like it. See you at the next one." The psychological impact was devastating. If this was their 847th most important system, what horrors awaited at their actual core worlds? How many resources were the Devourers willing to sacrifice for a species that treated galactic warfare like an elaborate practical joke? The final straw came when the humans managed to capture several Devourer vessels. Not through superior firepower, but through what their military files called aggressive recruitment. They'd somehow convinced entire Devourer crews to defect by offering better working conditions, dental coverage, and what their propaganda called the chance to fight for the winning team. Within weeks, human-operated Devourer ships were broadcasting guerrilla tactics to resistance movements on previously conquered worlds. Planets that had been pacified for centuries suddenly erupted in rebellion, their populations adopting human-style asymmetric warfare with terrifying enthusiasm. "Assessment?" demanded the hive mind as reports flooded in from across their empire. "Continued engagement with humanity is strategically catastrophic. They are not merely resistant to conquest, they are actively contagious. Their tactical innovations are spreading to our previously subjugated populations. 17 worlds have declared independence using human-inspired resistance methods. Probability of successful conquest of human space." Tactical Node 891's response was unprecedented in Devourer history. 0. Humans do not fight to defend territory. They fight to make conquest impossible. Each victory against them requires resources that exceed the value of the conquest. They have turned warfare into a negative-sum game where winning means losing. The most disturbing revelation came from captured human strategic documents. Humanity's entire expansion into space had been planned with the assumption that they would eventually face an enemy like the Devourers. Every colony, every trade route, every piece of infrastructure had been designed with guerrilla warfare in mind. They hadn't just been preparing for this war. They'd been looking forward to it. One document, apparently from their high command, read, "Remember, we're not just fighting for human space. We're teaching the galaxy that humans don't get conquered. We get creative. Make sure they regret ever hearing our name." The Devourer fleet withdrew from human space, marking it as a permanent exclusion zone in their galactic databases. Their report to the greater hive was simple. Species designation, human. Status, weaponized. Recommend permanent avoidance. Quarantine all systems showing human influence. As the massive ships limped toward the galactic rim, humanity's response echoed across subspace. Thanks for the field test. We've learned so much about large-scale fleet tactics. Can't wait to share our findings with our new friends in the rebellion. The humans had done something impossible. They'd faced an enemy that had conquered 147 civilizations and turned the invasion into a recruitment drive for a galactic revolution. The Devourers had wiped out 147 worlds because those civilizations had fought like civilizations, with honor, strategy, and the assumption that warfare had rules. Humanity fought like a virus. They spread, adapted, and turned every defeat into a lesson, every victory into propaganda, and every contact with their enemies into an opportunity to prove that some species were simply too stubborn, too creative, and too spitefully determined to ever be conquered. In the end, the galaxy learned a simple truth. You don't invade human space. You just teach them new ways to make everyone else's life miserable. Many thanks to my channel members and Pathfinders. You all make these videos possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.